offended me with silence.
Hey guys, it's Mr. Manor here. We're going to be talking quick about a little recap of Chapter 10. We were talking about temperature, we talked about Fahrenheit scale, we talked about the Celsius scale and how to convert from one to the other. And then we were about to get into heat, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, joining me today is Lil Nat and De Brooklyn. They're going to be helping us kind of go through a word sort. And I have a pile of different examples of radiation, conduction, and convection. Okay, those are the three ways that heat is transferred from one thing to another. And that's what we're going to kind of talk through today, okay? So here we go. Okay, so first let's talk about the definitions. Okay, so first we have the transfer of heat through electromagnetic waves. Okay, that's called radiation. In other words, okay, in my own words, okay, that's when you just feel heat. Okay? You're not actually touching anything, but you can feel it. All right? So I'm going to hand this off to De Brooklyn. She's going to tape that up for me. Okay? Our next is the transfer of heat from one substance to another through direct contact. Okay? That's when I get hot from directly touching something. Okay? And we'll go through some examples of that as well. There we are. And then our last one, and this one's just a little bit more tricky, and this is the transfer of heat through currents caused by the warming and cooling of liquids and gases. Okay, this is when things like to circulate throughout the air and through water. Okay, and again, we will go through some examples of convection. All right, so our first one is an oven cooking a turkey. Okay, who doesn't love turkey? It's delicious, but how does it get cooked? Okay, it gets cooked through radiation. Okay, we heat up the oven. Okay, and the heat within the oven gets transferred to the turkey. Then we eat it. Then we fall asleep. It's awesome. Okay, next one we have feeling hot sand, okay, on your feet at the beach. Okay, so sometimes we go to the beach. We're having a great time. Sometimes we can burn our feet because that sand is really hot. Okay, your feet are directly touching the sand, which makes that conduction. Okay? And next up we have heat waves given off by the pavements. Okay, so sometimes if you notice on a really hot day on the road, you look at the road and it kind of has this glassy, almost watery look to it. Okay, that is because of convection. Okay, the heat from the black top actually heats up the air right above it, and that's what we see here, okay? Again, that is convection. All right, we're live. We're back live. Here we go. So I believe we were on to feeling the warmth from a fire. Okay, if you've ever been around a fire, I'm sure most of you have, you get warm. Okay, that warmth you feel is an example of radiation. Okay, you are not physically touching the fire, but you are feeling the warmth from that fire. That is radiation. Okay, now cooking popcorn on the stove. Okay, the popcorn is in direct contact with that pan. Okay, that heat is transferring from the pan to the popcorn. Because there's direct contact, that makes it conduction. Hey, here we have macaroni rising and falling in boiling water. Okay, and the reason why it rises and falls when you're boiling to try and make some mac and cheese, or if you're like me, I prefer Velveeta shells and cheese, but that's just me. Okay, the water is hotter at the very bottom than is the top. Okay, because that heat and the water is circulating, and that's why those macaroni noodles like to go up and down. All right, which makes this an example of convection. Okay, drying wet shoes near an air vent. Okay, now you put your shoes by the air vent or maybe boots in the winter. Hey, and that heat coming from the air vent isn't directly touching it. However, that heat gets blasted up in your boots or shoes, which makes this radiation. Chocolate melting in your hand. Personally, this is never something I've had to deal with. I don't know if I've ever had chocolate in my hands long enough for it to melt. However, if you were to hang on to chocolate long enough, the direct heat between your hands and the chocolate would transfer that heat and make this an example of conduction. Let's go through a few more here. Okay, so moving wind or ocean currents. Hey, whenever you see arrows like this showing kind of a circular motion, I always think convection, all right? Okay, sixth graders, just to review, an oven cooking a turkey, feeling the warmth from a fire, drying wet shoes near an air vent, are all examples of radiation, which is when we can feel heat. Feeling hot sand on your feet at the beach, cooking popcorn on the stove, and chocolate melting in your hand are all examples of conduction, which is when heat is transferred through direct contact. Heat waves given off by the pavement, macaroni rising and falling in boiling water, and moving winds and ocean currents are all examples of convection, which is when heat circulates through liquids or gases. Okay, now it's your turn. Are the following examples of radiation, conduction, or convection? We have roasting a marshmallow over a flame, an ice cube melting in your hand, touching a hot stove. Don't recommend doing that one. Going outside to get a tan, a radiator heating or cooling a room, a hot air balloon rising into the sky, and feeling the warmth of the sun on your face. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Next week we will talk more specifically about conduction. Mr. Maynor, out.